Welcome to Shaping Work, the podcast where creativity, leadership, and humanity meet. And maybe grab a coffee. I'm Jill Barrett, and around here we believe work should be more than just how we spend our days. It should actually mean something to us and to the world. Each conversation is a chance to explore how we're shaping not just projects, but cultures and communities too. From studios to job sites, from burnout to breakthrough, this is where we ask what it really takes to stay human, lead with heart, and build spaces and teams that thrive. Today I'm joined by Jay Gutnick, founder of Teal Canvas. His journey is all about trust, creativity, and what it means to build something deeply human. So whether you're scaling a mission-driven firm, rethinking what success looks like, or just trying to work with a little more purpose, you're in the right place. So everyone meet Jay Gutnick. He and his wife Rachel founded Teal Canvas, a business that's reimagining how we experience and commission art. And not in a stuffy gallery, cold museum kind of way, but in a very human, trust-centered, kind of radical way. Jay, I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I've been excited to join you.
So I'm going to read Jay's formal bio here so y'all can soak it in. Jay is a creative entrepreneur and the founder of Teal Canvas, a values-driven art business that helps people commission deeply personal works from some of the country's leading artists. Each piece is tailored to space, style, and story, from striking abstracts above a living room couch to intimate works that honor life's threshold moments, from weddings to transitions to grief. After stepping away from a demanding healthcare career, Jay began what he calls his ikigai journey, building a company rooted in creativity, trust, and connection. Together with his wife, Rachel, as I mentioned, he has grown Teal Canvas into a thriving community that sports over 100 artists, fosters authentic collaboration, and helps collectors experience the emotional power of art. Jay's work centers on building with intention rather than scale, championing artists without control, and showing how creativity can reshape the way we live, lead, and connect. Thanks again for joining us.
What a great bio.
What a great bio.
Great bio. I hope I live up to it.
Soak it in. That's you.
Let's live up to it. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, thank you for having me. This is really exciting. I'm happy to talk with you.
Yay. I'd love to start at the beginning, as we were talking about before we pressed record here.
Yeah.
So I know that Teal Canvas began with a very personal experience for you and Rachel, commissioning your own piece of art. What was happening at that time, and how did it move from one painting into a whole new business and life chapter?
Yeah, I'll try to make a very long story a little shorter to preserve our time. But my wife was finishing her MBA at the University of Michigan. Very proud of her. A top 10 program, go blue. I was in DC actually for 15 years. I'd moved from DC to Ann Arbor to be with her in December of 2019, right before COVID. We were planning a wedding, and it was this new opportunity. I just exited my healthcare career and exited a business that was quite successful. For many reasons, it was not sustainable for me. And so I had moved to Ann Arbor and really kind of was collecting my thoughts on my next move. In 2020, when we moved back to the East Coast, we kind of wanted to honor our moment. And one of the things that we had really in common was a love of the arts. So as far back as I could remember, 12, 13 years old, I was reading anything I could get my hands on. I was looking at art. Music is my first love. So really like digesting music. It was one of my passions for a very long time. And so in June of 2020, unfortunately, we had to cancel our wedding because of COVID. There was just all this hurricane of stuff happening, both great and love-filled and also very disappointing. We had an artist that we knew in our community. We reached out to her to create a painting for us. And, my favorite color was teal. I find it to be both haunting and really energetic and very calming and all these things. So the painting was based in the color teal. My wife also loves it. Rachel also loves it. But the ability to talk with the artist, to kind of talk about our color palette, the emotion we wanted to feel in that painting, The size of the painting for our walls was just so inspiring, and that's actually our teal canvas.
There it
Um,
is. Oh, wait, pause a second. Let's just soak it in. Oh, for our audio listeners, would you describe what's behind you?
yeah, so it's a teal-based abstract in the artist's signature style. And we love it because again it gives this very calming. I'm originally from Virginia Beach, so water was very much part of my life. Very calming, very kind of fluid, very based on the ocean. But then it has these speckles of red in it, and the red kind of spoke to the violence of the time and
Mm,
the chaos of the time, not only for us but the world as it was shutting down. So it kind of is this living memory of the time for us. So this became our teal canvas and is the basis of our company.
it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thank you for describing that.
It has become one of our most cherished pieces. It felt deeply personal and it felt deeply ours, as opposed to other paintings or other art pieces that we had in our family that were purchased at galleries or purchased at shows. Like you can really love them and you can cherish them, but
Mhm.
there wasn't that personal connection of it being made specifically for us.
Yeah, wow, that is so, so cool. What an amazing
It was
experience.
great. It felt like a little bit of magic. Having someone who had this
Yeah.
innate talent lend us a little talent with our voice mixed in. It was a really kind of collaborative dance.
And then it's kinda like, who knows what the final thing is, the final piece is gonna look like, and so there's a waiting around for that, and that like, the mystery, the magic in that, and then ta-da, the ta-da moment.
There's a little surrender in commissioning.
Mm,
If we fast forward as part of our company, we try to disarm that surrender as best we can.
mm.
But I think that's a little bit of the magic of commissioning is that there is a little surrender in it. And you have to lean back and know that you're in good hands.
Yeah, that's where you guys come in. So tell me about your journey from commissioning this beautiful piece to launching the company. Obviously, I know where the name came from, Teal. Like,
Yeah. So, like I said, I had exited the healthcare space about 6 months prior, which left me a lot of room to kind of ideate and figure out what I wanted to do next. And Joe, I had no idea. I didn't know. I knew a couple kind of basics. In my healthcare career, we really worked with catastrophic care patients. So it was ALS, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, meeting families really in the worst times of their life where they're navigating these healthcare experiences where they feel lost, they need support. They're watching their loved ones, or if we're speaking specifically to the patient, navigate these really devastating diagnoses. So when I think about businesses, it's attached to one of two things. You're either solving someone's pain point or you're amplifying someone's joy. And they
mm,
can cross pollinate, but as I think about business, you're navigating one of those two streams. And so I spent 15 years really helping people in pain points, which as a mission, I'm very proud of it, also very hard. So I knew in my next business, I wanted to work in something creative. Like there was my 4 C's that I wanted. So it's creativity, collaboration, community, contribution. Um, I'll say it again, community, creativity, collaboration, contribution.
mm.
I knew I wanted to lean into amplifying people's joy. I was done with kind of solving people's pain points. And I knew that I wanted to do something in the art space. I just didn't know what. I knew also that, not only the art space, but I find what is really integrous and what is really lovely about the creative space is that it creates things for the world through the lens of a human being. But also it really it amplifies engagement. So it allows people to really talk about it. It allows people to what you think about a song or a painting may be very different from what I think about a song or a painting. But I love the fact that you and I can talk and kind of find commonality in what we love about something. So kind of all these thoughts were swirling in my head about the next company. And I think that when Rachel and I commissioned this, it really crystallized the idea. It was like, oh my gosh, I got to be involved in something hyper creative. I got to speak not only with Rachel, but also the artist very openly and very honestly about what we wanted to see in this piece without disrupting her creative style, right? Like we wanted the artist
Mhm.
to maintain her creative style, We just wanted a little input on, let's say, the palette or like the emotion that we feel. So it kind of like it fulfilled everything I was looking for. And so Rachel was recruiting at the time. I said to Rachel, we had this amazing experience. Is there a company that does this in a much larger way with a much bigger group of artists? And so we went on the lookout and it literally didn't exist, Jill. So we
Oh,
looked at each other and said, either this is a really innovative, disruptive idea as an entryway into the fine art space, or because it didn't exist, this is the dumbest idea ever.
right, right.
Um, as it turns out, it was a novel idea and we've grown since then. But, again, it just kind of like, it was this swirl of ideas that this fulfilled, a place where we can work with artists across all styles, across all subjects, across, anything that a collector may need, and lend this little magic thing to a greater audience.
Oh, what an amazing process.
So Rachel and I have very different but aligned talents. I think that there's overlap, but I lean more into creativity and I lean more into the kind of the front end. So recruiting the artists, recruiting the collectors, reaching our B2B partners, how the site was going to look, how everything was going to feel, how to create the most elegant experience for our collectors and our artists, both sides of the table as possible. Um,
Hmm.
Rachel is really amazing at systems. So having all the back end SaaS products that we're using talk to each other and creating cohesion across the company. It was amazing because literally the world was shut down. We were living at the beach, and it was just she and I waking up and working on the MVP site and working on our procedures and working on what kind of experience we were going to offer for 3 months hand in hand. Um, when we launched, she actually started recruiting again, and now she is in venture capital with a really amazing firm.
I know. I just love watching her career path. I wonder if more um, entrepreneurs and business leaders spent more time around water.
Mm,
We'd have more creativity in our companies. That's a story for another time. I know there's quite a bit of research about the effect on our nervous system, and I
for
wonder
sure.
what there is about creativity going on there.
You know,
Uh,
it's interesting, Jill. I think for me the bigger thing was just the quiet. Um,
mm,
we very kind of selectively and we were very fortunate to be able to do so. But on the height of COVID, when moving from Ann Arbor, Michigan back to the East Coast,
yeah.
our communities are all in cities and everything was shut down. And so you have all these people in cities who can't go anywhere and can't do anything.
Hmm.
So we kind of very selectively moved to a very quiet beach town, and it allowed us to create this company without any noise and just be very laser focused on us and on this company. So the
Beautiful.
water was certainly an advantage. I could at any time go a couple blocks down and just like with my dog and play on the beach,
Mm,
which wouldn't have been available to us in a city. But I think it's more kind of the intentionality of just being quiet and
nice.
being very focused on what we wanted to do as a couple and in this emerging business.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for bringing that distinction.
Of course.
How the quiet now that's probably been harder for an entrepreneur or business leader to access than the waterfront.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's an entrepreneur or, at any level of professionalism, you're just surrounded by
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Anybody, yeah, in any company, yeah, that needs to be creative.
it's like kind of like you need the quiet to hear yourself think a little bit.
Totally, totally. So one of the things that struck me right away is that you've built Teal Canvas on trust, not control.
Mm.
And it seems like it's a little radical in both art and business, where people love control. So, how did you get comfortable leading this way, and what has it opened up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I'm most definitely a control person. I
Hmm.
feel uncomfortable when I do not have a level of control. And this whole business is kind of based on surrendering control a little bit. I think we can put
Yeah.
in procedures and checkpoints and, like real guardrails to make sure that the quality is controllable. But at the end of the day, I didn't want artists to do anything that they don't feel comfortable with. I wanted to, our artists are recognized and they've built their careers long before we entered the picture. So I
Mm,
certainly was not here to demand anything or say, you have to do this. Every commission that our artists do, I want them to feel very passionate about, and I want them to feel very energized about, and I want it to be kind of a different arm of their career, something that they would be very proud of to create on their own, much less working with me or working with a collector. And kind of inherently, commissioning is about surrendering control a little bit. It's about levying trust on someone to do something that you cannot do, but also someone to meet and realize the vision of what you're looking for in a painting for your home or your business or wherever that painting is going to go.
yeah.
So, it took a little practice to give up that control. It's much different from a healthcare space, but I found it to be very, very rewarding. I mean, for every commission that we do as a business, it's a different experience of being immersed in that creativity, and it is a lesson in giving up a little bit of that control.
Mm,
My only job is to make sure both sides of the table, the artist and the collector, or like we work with designers nationwide, so like let's say the interior designer that both feel the experience is top notch, to feel the experience is the most remarkable experience they could have in the art space. Beyond that, I do have to give up some control to the artist that if there's a deadline, they're going to meet that deadline. If there are certain aspects of the painting, whether it be, palette or as you had referenced earlier, we do representational work. So we can do photorealistic work. We can do homages to certain areas of people's lives.
mm,
You need to honor those. And it can't go into left field just because. So we
mm.
do need to make sure that we marry kind of the collector's vision with the artist's talent. And so I guess that's kind of what we do as a company is make sure again on both sides of the table, the quality is there, the communication is there, nobody feels like they're on an island. Beyond that, it's kind of a creative whirlwind and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Creative whirlwinds. They're the best.
It's
And
wonderful.
so this is like one of your value propositions, I guess, is to provide support in the
Mhm.
surrender. And there's a process, and we're an organizational development firm that provides coaching, and we know much of leadership growth is about surrender. We get
Very true.
surrender. And there are things that we can put in place that make it seem like it's not so much giving something up as the possibility of gaining something.
Love that. Yeah, you're not giving up control.
Mm,
You are gaining insight and you are gaining a relationship. Um, so, it's a way to tap into that creativity and this talent, this remarkable talent. I mean, our artists at this point are nationally just remarkable, remarkable talent. And so it's a way to kind of tap into that a little bit for this slice of time, culminating in this painting that's going to be on your wall that you look up at and say, you know what, this amazingly renowned artist did this. And I had a say in doing it. So I'll give you an example. We
mm,
have an artist out of New York named Antoinette Wysocki. She's in a presidential library, she's in museums, but when she commissions, she'll go to the collector and we help support kind of the data collection. But she'll ask the collector, what are your 10 biggest passion points of your life? What are your favorite song lyrics? What are your favorite book quotes? What are your favorite places? Who are your favorite people? And then interspersed in her signature style are upwards of 30 to 40 Easter eggs about the collector's life. So it becomes this lovely visual diary. Um, and she'll give little snippets along the way of the piece. But at the end of the day, we want you to be surprised and find things through the coming years in the painting that reflect your life and reflect your passions and reflect kind of the holistic everything of you. And so that does take a surrender to some degree. And at the end of the day, you're going to see this piece on your wall. It's going to be this beautiful abstract piece full of color and full of dimension. And you're going to find little pieces of you throughout it as time goes. I keep on using this word. It's this lovely dance between the collector, the artist, and we're just honored to be kind of somewhere in the mix of that.
well, it sounds like you're doing an amazing job, and I've really loved to get to know the artists and look at the pieces that have been commissioned and follow some of those stories. Thank you for sharing about this incredible artist, and that just reminds me of the delight of discovery for the collector. It's like there is something really powerful in telling your story,
Mm,
and in telling your story, sometimes you kind of get to know yourself. And as you're responding to these prompts, and then the artist creating and integrating that. And then there's more discovery moving forward, like you said, over years of sitting with this artwork of what the artist has created. So, how amazing to feel seen.
Mm.
And I think this is one of those big I'm gonna say, I'm gonna call it a pain point. From my point of view, one of the pain points that we have in our world today is that people are not feeling seen. They're not seeing each other. And I'm not saying that our world today, actually, this is just the nature of humankind forever. We have a hard time really being present enough to see each other and experience being seen.
And I think you're exactly right. I think the arts, again, whether it's literature or it's music or it's the visual arts or it's a movie, um, it's dependent upon the lens of how that creator saw the world. And
Mm.
somehow remarkably, when you put it out into the world, there's this attraction to the audience, and it becomes, even though it's through the lens of someone else's eyes, it becomes this statement, me as a viewer or me as a listener, of how I see the world. There are certain songs that are so meaningful to me, and even though I didn't create them, I'm attached to them in such a significant, passionate way because they somehow, some way, through a note or through a lyric, express how I want to be seen or how I see the world. And so I think with the
Yeah.
visual arts, when you talk about discovery, there are multiple kind of discovery access points. So with 100 plus artists, our job is to guide the person to the artist that is going to be their lens, who is going to be kind of the translator on how they see the world, or maybe a little less dramatic, how they want to see beauty on their wall. So
Mhm, mhm,
from a procedural standpoint, we're here to guide to the right artist with a little input, like, do you love abstract? Do you want something
mhm.
photorealistic? Do you want something figurative? But we help guide you down the funnel to choose your artist. So once we guide you down the funnel, and it's a really engaging, cool experience, you feel like you have handpicked that artist for you. The next step is to introduce the collector or the designer, whoever it may be, to the artist. So you kind of build a relationship. So that's kind of the next level of discovery. It's a human to human connection. So you're really kind of talking with the artist, talking about what you want to see in the piece, sharing stories about life. Then, as the artist gets started, once everybody agrees on kind of the tone and the emotion and the subject and style of the piece, we're typically offering ongoing progress shots, progress videos as it's being made.
Okay.
Um, and that's like kind of all levels. So it's not only, like we're halfway done. I have certain artists who are helping, like this is how we pick stretcher bars for a piece. This is how we prime a canvas. Like these are all the things that we have to do prior to paint hitting the canvas that makes it yours. This is the first layer of paint as we put it on. This is not what it's going to look like at the end at all. This is the first layer. This is the fourth layer. This is culminating in this amazing piece. And then the last is once it's shipped, seeing it on your wall. So, it's really kind of multi-step discovery. Um, it's an experience of discovery in multiple ways.
Yeah, and learning. So people that are curious and wanna learn, I bet you have some collectors that are, like, all into the details and
For
of
sure.
of the process, and some of them are just like, "Just do it. I just give you what I have and have it show up in 2
A
months and I'm fine."
100%. Some collectors who want to micromanage the whole experience, and
Yeah.
like we do our best to honor them while also
Mhm.
honoring our artists.
Yeah.
And then we have collectors who, like after that first conversation, literally don't want to see a thing until it's shipped to them.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's such a like a deep surrender and trust
Mm.
in the artist that you have chosen to engage with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat to hear about the different types of people. Um, so you are often working with people at these threshold moments, weddings, new beginnings, sometimes even grief. What have you learned about the emotional power of art in those times with those collectors, and how does it connect people in a way that few other things can?
Yeah, I think, again, I think that art is wonderful across a number of mediums. I'll speak specifically to visual art in honoring moments. Rachel and I realized that, we were thinking at first, what do we want to be? And maybe we can just do abstract pieces. Maybe we can just lean into kind of one style. It was really very cool. So Rachel and I got married June 6th, 2020. So it was really right in the height of COVID. It
Mhm.
was very hard because Rachel, I will give all credit to Rachel, had planned really a dream wedding, and we had to cancel that. So we ended up getting married in front of 10 people. It ended up being really lovely, but it was not quite the wedding that we had imagined. So a
Mhm.
year later, when the world had opened up a little bit, we had a party. We did not walk down the aisle. She wore her wedding gown. I wore what I would have worn, but it was just a bash. So as part of that, we actually invited one of our artists named Roger Schultz, a beautiful artist, to our
Mm.
wedding. And he
Oh,
came with a blank canvas. I wish you could see it's right there. He came with a blank canvas and allowed all of our guests to come up and literally just tell him what they wanted to see.
oh, wow.
And so it became this representational but abstract piece where, you can see the trees outside of our venue. Someone for I have no idea why, but was like, I want to see a parrot. So there's a small parrot in the piece.
Who
Um,
was that person? I
but
love it.
it's like this beautiful abstract piece, but it honors, and again, much like our teal canvas, it really honors our life. And it's again one of our favorite pieces. And we've had a lot of moments like that. So, whether it's honoring someone who has passed with a really kind of photorealistic image.
Mm.
Um, I'll tell one story, and I have permission to tell this story. We have a collector in DC named Chloe. Chloe's dad was hit in an Uber accident and passed. She
Oh,
has a picture of him from that morning sitting on a bench in Florida in front of the ocean. So you can see his back. He's sitting on the bench. It's sunrise, and there's the most beautiful sunrise. It's just
oh my
full of
gosh.
oranges and yellows and pinks, and it's really like a gorgeous, gorgeous picture. So she came to us and didn't want anything really representational. That's not what was going to move her. But we hand selected from our roster of artists a really beautiful abstract artist named Sharon Halevi. And in that abstract, she put in the direct colors of the sunrise. And so it was really honoring of her dad. And it's become her most cherished, like they just moved and she was really highlighting that painting. So it doesn't have to be something that's necessarily representational. It can be something that's more obscure but deeply meaningful. We were working with another collector. The artist that she chose, Cabell Molina, again out of New York, does these really beautiful female centric, female empowerment collage
Mm.
paint pieces. She is known because the hair of her pieces is just like enriched with personal notes, butterflies, birds, flowers. It's really beautiful.
Hmm.
So this collector got in touch with us. She was remodeling her home, really loved the style of the piece. She happened to be Persian. And midway through was when a woman was executed in Iran for showing her hair. She was beaten to
Ugh.
death. And so, although the intention was not to start this way, midway through the commission, it really became kind of a rallying cry and a focal point for her and her friends and family who also were Persian or were in Iran. So, we're just full of these really beautiful stories where art then becomes like this representation of a movement or a loss or a celebration. And what I love is, again, across 100 plus artists, if you want something that's deeply beautiful and you literally just love the aesthetic, that's great. And
Mm.
if you come with us with a story of, again, whether very, very kind of specific or very like an homage, like an abstract painting, we're privy to these stories and you get to know people in a really intentional, lovely way in this slice of lifetime. And many collectors I keep in touch with, many I don't, but it was great to kind of meet them in a very poignant slice of life.
Wow. They're so fortunate to have you.
It's been really beautiful to create
Yeah.
this.
Wow.
The art becomes very personal and very purposeful, which is great. And I love everything that we do. I love the fact that we can create beauty for people's homes. I think COVID changed things a little bit, right? Like as people were just kind of trapped in their home in COVID, they're looking at all levels of their space and realizing, their space, they need to honor their space. And I think your space can be really sacred. And if that space doesn't feel sacred, it was kind of an impetus to do something about that. Surround yourself because you're literally trapped. Surround yourself with things that feel sacred to you and feel purposeful to you. And so I think we launched, I think that COVID was really devastating. And I feel a little, I always feel a little awkward in saying this, but from giving us the quiet we needed to kind of reach the second stage of our lives personally. And then also the launching of this business where people were like looking at their surroundings and feeling like it wasn't very intentional. I think Teal Canvas launched at really the exact right time.
Wow. Well, I mean, when you talk about sacred spaces in quiet and what was swirling around in COVID. Yeah, totally see what you're saying, and it is very, very positive what you all offered.
I would say again across the table, artists too. It was a bit of
Yeah,
a tough time for artists as well.
right.
A lot of the galleries had closed down. I have a number of friends who are gallerists. I think there's absolutely amazing benefits to working with a gallery or working with art consultants. We're just kind of a different entryway into the art space, a bit
Mhm.
more of kind of a hands-on personal way to enter into the art space. But I think supporting artists across all levels is integral right now. I think as schools are shutting down art programs, as people are kind of legislating and gatekeeping what good art is or what art means to the world, I think we need artists more than ever right now. I continue to say I think art across all mediums is a lens through which we see the world. I think it's incredibly important. And so it's also been a mission, a deep mission to support artists in any way that I can.
Such a mission and the connection to this larger purpose than what you are all immediately doing for the business. I really appreciate that about what you guys are up to, such a purpose-led business. So our audience is full of people who shape environments,
Mm,
architects, designers,
mm.
developers, construction leaders, some interior designers, and the artists are definitely a part of this. Um, those folks are always thinking about how a space feels, as you talked about a sacred space. There are a lot of different ways to shape our experiences through design. So I'm curious from your point of view, how you think the right piece of art could actually shape the culture in a workplace. And like what happens when art becomes part of the kind of the daily experience of a team? You're talking about the group creation of that beautiful piece from your wedding. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like that would be an immersive experience for a team, but simply being surrounded by art, yeah, how do you think that that shapes a culture?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that. We've done certainly some office space pieces, we've done some hospitality pieces, it's not just residential we're working in. And we are finding that obviously, I think culture is defined by interconnectedness in personnel, in people. I think it's the honesty and integrity and professionalism and communication you bring to the workplace. I think it's also informed. Again, we were speaking about, during COVID, people realize that space is sacred.
Mm,
People talk about how important set and setting are. And so when you walk into a place, whether it's a corporate workplace or a hospitality space or a restaurant, I think what you see kind of defines the experience, and what you see kind of defines how you're going to feel when you walk into a place. So for a hospitality group or for a restaurant, you could have key things that you're thinking about when you're thinking about that space. What is the origin of the hospitality or restaurant space? What are you trying to say? What kind of cuisine is it? What's the feel you're looking for? I think art can certainly be an enhancer of that. What city are you in, right? So, paying homage to the location, I think is really important. We've done quite a few pieces for founders as they're more and more on Zooms as pieces for their Zoom background. So, pieces that are going to be conversation pieces, or we've done a couple pieces that become abstract representations of people's logos, for instance. So we're given a logo and then choosing an
cool.
artist to really like break down that logo where you can kind of see semblances of it, but it's a signature abstract fine art piece.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's very, very cool because it kind of on first glance it appears as again a very beautiful abstract piece, but if you squint a little bit, you're like, wait, that's your logo. So I think when it comes to again whether a corporate office space or a hospitality or a restaurant space, I think you can use art to kind of enhance your pillars and enhance kind of the feeling you want when you walk in that space. If you're walking into an office and the piece is very doom and gloom, that's what you're going to see every day. If
Mm,
it's something more inspiring and cheery, I think that's going to affect the way you walk into a place. So,
yeah.
um, I think there's common through lines to a workplace and a home. You want to see what fills your cup, and you want to see what you want to put out into the world and what you want to kind of get out of that space as well. So it's a push pull.
Yeah. Push pull. Hey, have you heard of this concept called aesthetics?
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm so fascinated by it. It's the science of how our brains respond to art and beauty.
Makes sense.
And neuroscientists are researching this. They found that when people experience beauty, whether in a painting, music, or
Mm,
even a moral idea, that the same region of the brain, the medial orbitofrontal cortex, lights up. Okay. So that part of the brain is tied to memory, empathy, and emotional regulation.
love that. You
Cool.
hear a lot now about neuroplasticity and some of the things you can do to kind of like enhance neuroplasticity. And I think art plays a part in that, right? Like it kind of directs pathways in a different way. And I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing to be in this space.
The studies are actually showing that real art, not prints or reproductions, stimulate the brain up to 10 times more strongly in areas tied to memory and consciousness.
I will 1 billion% after this call look that up, and I feel like a next blog post is coming for sure.
Oh, good. I look forward to reading it.
That's great.
I
That's
can send
great.
you the research. Yeah, I just have another question for you, and then we're going to wrap up for the day. Thank you
That's
so much
quick.
for taking time to chat today. There's a question that I'm asking every guest on shaping work.
Mm,
At the end, and at the end of the season, we'll pull all the answers together for a special reflection episode.
great.
Okay, so here's the question. If you could shape one thing about the way we work,
Mm.
anything at all, what would you change?
Globally, not just kind of in the art space or in my space, globally, correct?
Hey, you can answer however you want, whatever's coming to you.
Yeah, I've been curious how to work in this word. I have a new favorite word.
Oh,
Um, and we used it earlier, but I discovered it this year, and it's so intentional to everything in this time of my life. So it's a Japanese word called ikigai.
mm,
And ikigai, if you look it up, it's usually kind of shown as three concentric circles. So it's this marriage of what lights you up. What do you feel is so passionate in your life? What would you get up for every day, even if you weren't paid to do it?
mm,
What is going to change the world in the most meaningful way? And regardless of what I just said about, waking up and not being paid to do something, what can you do to support your family? So again, it's this marriage of what lights you up, what kind of creates the most passionate force in you. Given that, what could change the world in the best, most positive, most progressive way? And how can you be paid well for it? I'm thinking about the workforce and I'm thinking about how people work. I wish people could find their ikigai a little bit better
mm.
and not feel like they have to do things. I think that I'm well aware that this comes from a position of this is my encore career, and I was able to lean into it a bit more because I worked so hard in my healthcare career. But I feel like a lot of times people kind of do what's expected of them as opposed to finding their ikigai.
And how would that change the world if more people found their ikigai?
I think that people would just lean into their passions, and I think that
Mm,
every profession is needed. And if your ikigai is founded in something that is absolutely opposed to what mine is, that's beautiful. That's great. But I once I feel like I truly found mine, it lended me a purpose that was really unexpected. Um, so from a very kind of a bit of an esoteric, very hopeful way, that's how I would change it. In a more grounded way, I have just found in both this business and the last that transparency, authenticity, kind of treating all levels of respect. There's a book called Evolved Enterprise. This is
mm,
the other reason why we called it Teal Canvas. There's a book called Evolved Enterprise that designates colors to different kind of managerial or business styles. You have teal companies that are very flat, where every voice has value, where all voices are heard, where every step of the company kind of like has input. And I think that's kind of also why we created Teal Canvas, because I'm here to kind of like support everybody, but the artists have a say, the collectors have a say, our design partners have a say. Everybody's voice is equally as important to create something beautiful. I think that there's a lot of diamonds on all levels of businesses. And I think most businesses would be enhanced in kind of listening to everybody in the business, as opposed to kind of just like, this is the top down, this is what everybody has to say. Of course, there has to be leaders and there has to be kind of decision makers. I'm not kind of calling for completely flat, but
Mm.
I think every voice matters. And I think the only way to get there is to lean in on authenticity, transparency, direct communication, and not silencing any voice.
Wow, so much wisdom coming out of you answering that question. And my takeaway is I need to just go and just like surround myself with something teal for an extended period of time.
Love.
I encourage everybody to do that. Maybe you can get it from the water. Um, and certainly engage with Teal Canvas and
Please.
Jay, and consider how your selection of art, your commissioning of art, or as an artist, your expression of your art actually has the ability to shape the world in ways that will remain mysterious to us, and also ways that we can research and in making the world a better place. So thank you so much, Jay, for joining me for this conversation. I learned a ton, and I hope our listeners learned a ton from you as well. And that some people reach out and start getting to work with you or getting to play with you with Teal Canvas.
It's my favorite thing to do is just to talk art with people. So anybody who would love a conversation, I'm here.
Thanks, Jay. I'll talk to you soon.
This is wonderful. I appreciate it. And you're adding your art into the world now. So it's lovely to take part in it.
Thank you. I love it. What I'm taking from this conversation with Jay is that trust can be quietly radical. We're so used to control in business. Our schedules, our contracts, our systems. But control doesn't inspire people. Trust does. And that's also what art teaches us. When you trust the process, when you trust the artist, something unexpected and meaningful can emerge. The same is true for culture. When we trust our people, when we trust the process, we open the door to workplaces we could never have imagined. So wherever you're building, a studio, a site, a company, make room for what feels human. Because spreadsheets get outdated, but meaning sticks. And maybe that's the real art of leadership.